You say your account is, quote, offered with an element of apology to the people of Iraq. What do you mean by that?
I think they've suffered more than they had to if we got everything right. Now, no intervening government these days is going to get everything right, and the Iraqis must take responsibility for their own future. But we left them with a pretty hard set of furrows to plough, and I wish we could have done better at the time because there's been a lot of suffering.
A lot of the blame in your book you put at the feet of the Americans, and I understand that. They were by far the dominant lead in the coalition, and clearly many mistakes were made. But particularly when it came to post-war planning, we were invading a country that hadn't invaded us, hadn't declared war on us. Was the British government not remiss in being far more rigorous in making sure that the Americans had a post-war reconstruction plan?
You can want to have a plan, and then getting that plan discussed and implemented may be another matter. We were, if you remember, Andrew, we were rather deterred by the fact that the theatre of war had changed for the British Army from Turkey through to the south, to Basra. And there was an awful lot of planning in that turnaround which distracted people from looking clearly at what would follow the invasion. We had very good lines into the State Department, but Colin Powell was being cut out of the planning for the aftermath.
Well, the Pentagon took over the aftermath.
And we didn't have good lines into the Pentagon. I think the Pentagon and the Vice President, Cheney and Rumsfeld, were both very difficult to get through to for the British. So we were cut out.
Melanie Phillips, you've remained in favour of the war. You said it had to be done. You also thought it was essential given what was happening to the rise of Islamism. But there wasn't any Islamism in Iraq before we invaded.
I think that's not so. Saddam was supposedly a secular tyrant. But he also understood the rise of Islam in the region, and it was a tiger that he was determined to ride. He was giving support to a number of Islamist groups. And quite honestly, we just don't know what side he would have...
What terrorist groups did he support?
A number of terrorist groups.
Which ones?
Well, they were basically pro-Palestinian groups. But they were, he gave succour and support to...
He was always on the side of the hardline Palestinians, I understand
that.
Yes,
but his rhetoric
he was not
was
supporting...
Islamic.
His rhetoric became There was
Islamic.
no Al-Qaeda or Islamic State or versions of in Iraq until we invaded.
He was using Islamist or Islamic rhetoric towards the end of his of his time. He was quite clearly a tiger. As I say, that he was prepared. He was very happy to ride because his aim was, dominance of the region. But my position was always that I supported the reasoning, the rationale for the war. I don't think anything that's happened has, in my view, destroyed the rationale for the war. He was perceived to be a threat. The calibration of that threat changed after 9/11. Not that people said he was part of 9/11. That's another issue completely.
Well, he wasn't.
But indeed, people did not say that. But
Mr. Cheney said that he was, and that was untrue.
Well, I can't say what Mr. Cheney did or didn't say because I don't have the information. I don't have that information. But the fact is, the argument was not that he was part of 9/11. The argument was that in the wake of 9/11, the calibration of risk had changed, and we could not, therefore, take the risk that we all thought and the world all thought that he posed.
I need to come back to Jeremy Greenstock. You've had a good say. I need to come back to you. Is there really anything good to say about this war? We know that the Saddam Hussein regime was a terrible regime, but was it really worse than what then happened to Iraq and the hundreds of thousands of Iraqis that have been killed since? We also know that Saddam Hussein was not backing the Islamist groups that have now been attacking us, but they are. Indeed, Iraq's been a breeding ground for them. What exactly was the plus of this war?
It was, in one sense, the beginning of the Arab Spring, Andrew, actually. I don't think it should have been done by outside intervention. I think the people should have done it for themselves. What we got hideously wrong was not understanding that it is immensely hard to fill a vacuum when you've removed a tyrant, whether it's done internally or by external intervention. the vacuum is very difficult to fill within countries that have very weak institutions. So a lot of the calculations were wrong, but we gave the Iraqis an opportunity. We got rid of a tyrant they hated. They were being crushed by that tyrant. The Shia majority of Iraq has been enabled to come back as the majority government. We've started something. We just didn't calculate it would take so many decades before they're able to reach a stable, consensual state of government. It's going to take a lot longer.
Okay, the book is out now?
The book is out now.
And it's called?
Iraq, The Costs of War.
The Costs of War. Very well. Ambassador, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.